The Village of Endicott Water Pollution Control Plant is located on the outskirts of the Village of Endicott along the Susquehanna River. All of our water is going to come from predominantly residential and some industrial users within our collection system. So we service all of the residents of the Village of Endicott and about 30,000 people in the town of Union, as well as about 8,000 to 10,000 people from the town of Vestal. So the water is going to come from those 3 municipalities, and it's all going to come here. As we treat all that water will ultimately be discharged into the Susquehanna River. A big part of our process for wastewater treatment is that initial separation of the water from everything else that's coming in. So that would include garbage and debris that we can't treat, as well as biosolids and sludge that will get treated. So once we have a separation of the water stream from the biosolid stream, we can then go into a process to treat the water. That's going to be done with a secondary process. So the difference between recycling water versus the biosolids is that the water is going to just flow after it's been treated directly into the river. That process is continuous for us. So as water is coming in, it's consistently and continuously going through multiple stages, ultimately being discharged to the river. The biosolid stream is a little different in that it's more in a batch sequence, and also it's the idea that we're going to have to use different bacteria and different processes to treat that material. And it's a multi-stage, just like the water is going to be, it's a multi-stage process. All of our processes, though, are going to rely on gravity, microbiology, and a little bit of chemistry at the end. But the vast majority of all the treatment that happens in a wastewater treatment plant is done by bacteria and is done by gravity. These are all natural processes that are going to happen and would happen in the environment without our help. But what a wastewater treatment plant can do is, in a very short amount of time, treat a large amount of material safely and get that back into the environment. The flow comes to us from the community via the collection system. And the collection system, it starts in everybody's home. In most people's basement, they're going to find a 3 or a 4-inch pipe, a sewer lateral that's going to lead out to the road. And in the road, there will be underground a sewer, and that sewer will travel to another sewer, a larger sewer, and all these various residential flows will come together and reach a pump station. The pump station will take that flow, it'll do some type of conditioning and remove some garbage potentially, and then get it ready for pumping to go on to the next pump station so that water can ultimately end up at our facility. As the water enters our facility, it goes through a preliminary stage where we will remove additional garbage and debris that we can't treat. After that, it'll continue through our aerated grit chamber, which is the second and final stage of our preliminary treatment to remove more material we can't treat. And after that water passes through there, it'll go to its first stage of true treatment, which would be the primary clarifiers. And the primary clarifiers is where we'll get our separation of the wastewater from the biosolids. And as those two products separate, they will both follow an independent path for treatment. Some of the items that we can't treat at our facility would be rags, which is kind of a euphemism for the disposable wipes that have gained so much popularity, as well as other random debris and items that shouldn't be flushed down a toilet. So that would include some sticks and stones and grit-like material. So those materials are very abrasive on our pumps, as well as they take up a lot of space in a tank. So it's important for us to try to remove that grit and debris, separate it from the wastewater, and we treat that as a waste stream, ultimately going to a municipal landfill. One of the main reasons we recycle biosolids in Endicott is so that we can not continually add those biosolids, sludge, into the Broome County landfill. So what we're able to do is keep those nutrients out of the landfill and keep them on top, and then let them be recycled within the community. There's multiple ways that a wastewater treatment plant could help protect the environment. The first is we're a buffer between those wastes that are leaving everybody's house as well as industries and are ultimately going to end up in the river. We are the stopgap to try to protect the river. And the reason we're protecting the river is because we know that the people are going to recreate in it. We know that there's fish and wildlife that are using it for their environment, for their life cycle, as well as for drinking water sources. We're discharging our water into the Susquehanna River. The Susquehanna River will be a public water drinking source for the people of Pennsylvania. And so we know it's important that what we're putting into the river is going to be in somebody's drinking water glass within weeks. And so that's not lost upon us, knowing that we're trying to clean this water up so that it can be recycled and assimilate as quickly as possible into the river, both for the biology and the environment that's going to utilize that river, as well as downstream for additional communities that are going to utilize it for their own drinking water. Phosphorus is the limiting nutrient in fresh water. Our facility is really focused, because of our process, on the phosphorus side of it. We're not in a position to ultimately remove nitrogen. So there's a real benefit to New York waterways as we reduce and minimize our loading of phosphorus. One of the things I find interesting about our facility and most facilities is that they are working continuously. Whether someone's here or someone's not, whether someone's trying, whether someone's not trying, these facilities are working and putting water and recycling back into the river. And for me, I found that for a very hands-on field, on a daily basis, you can make changes and see real-time effects that are going to benefit the community and the river directly. If someone were to be interested in wastewater and try to look at a way to get in, what I would recommend is gaining experience on the environmental side. Education classes that would be tied to biology and chemistry would be beneficial. And another big portion of that is the mechanical side. So much of what we do is reliant upon machines and equipment that to have a basic understanding of how that equipment operates and then how to service it when it fails is critical to our industry. One of the benefits to working in water and wastewater is that these jobs will always exist in every community in America. Almost every community in America provides drinking water and/or wastewater services for their community. Those jobs will be here and they cannot leave.